Go for it, go for it. I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it. Discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it. Uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know. There'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play. I can make magic today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Senior Nation. I'm your host, Phyllis, Ayman, and you are listening to the Source TV Radio Network, WTSN, Washington, D.C. We are indeed a senior nation with 100 plus million adults over the age of 50. And we are here to bring you up-to-date information about successful aging, healthful longevity, and becoming what I call a well-ager, to dignity, respect, quality of life, and quality of care for our parents, our grandparents, and our loved ones. We at Senior Nation will be your trusted voice for informed choices, meaningful conversations, and a vibrant life at every age. Though the Source TV Radio Network is known for its dedication to bringing the highest level of jazz content to the viewing and listening audience, the owners of the network are also dedicated to bringing this important content to this fast-growing demographic, and I'm always happy to say that I'm grateful for the opportunity. So on to introducing tonight's guest. I'm pleased to introduce Sherry Winston, who has an outstanding career as a flute player in the music industry. She's a graduate of Howard University College of Fine Arts School of Music and a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Her many accomplishments include performing at the White House for former President and Mrs. Clinton during their last holiday party, and former President George H. Bush at New York City's Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Among the many television shows on which she's performed include Emerald Live, The Today Show, and Black Entertainment Network. Nationally, Sherry hosted 6 shows for Black Entertainment Network TV with Lou Rawls and saxophonist Najee at the San Francisco Jazz Festival, and played with Stevie Wonder in New York City, and for Misty Copeland, the first African-American principal dancer with the American Ballet Theater. So I'm so delighted to have Sherry here with me tonight to discuss the experience shared by many women in the music industry.
Well, good evening, Phyllis. Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Well, thanks, Sherry, for taking the time. I know you're very busy. And the great thing is, what's really kind of super duper we found out is that we live not that far from each other, which is not usually the case. So we're both in Connecticut from the same time zone and both experiencing not such great weather today. But
well, it could be snowing. It could be a hurricane out there. That's how I look at it. So.
And it could have been, 100 degrees with the humidity we had last week.
I don't complain about 100 degrees because I find a body of water, a lake or a pool or something to get into, and I'm a happy camper.
Oh, good for you. I just can't take the humidity. So we're a little bit different where that's concerned. I go outside, feel humidity, and that's it for me. But I'm so grateful to have you here. I've said this before. I don't remember if I told you this, but my background from a young age for 12 and a half years, I was trained as a classical pianist, and my first dream was to be a classical pianist, actually.
Wow.
But that was many moons ago. But whenever I hear any music, really, it's like food to my soul. I'm just kind of drawn to it. So, you want to start off telling the listeners and the viewers a little bit about how you came to this in your life?
I started in junior high school. They lined us up alphabetically, those who wanted to take a music program, and I was at the end of the line being Winston. So they were trying to be as fair as possible. So by the time they got to me, I mean, I really wanted to play drums, not the flute. I was not even that familiar with flute. And
Interesting.
the drums were gone, the trumpet was gone, all the things that might have interested me. I don't know why trumpet would interest me, but probably hearing, some famous person play.
Right.
But when I looked at the tuba, I said, oh no, I'm not going to play that. The tuba was almost as big as I was. So I said, whatever the flute is, I'll take it. And I just say it's kismet and it was meant to be. And I have not been separated from the flute, and I'll say the flute, not my flute now, which is a very famous flute, the Haynes flute, which is probably the number one flute that you can get in the world. It's a handmade flute. It's sterling silver.
Wow.
Usually one artisan works on the entire flute. So, the guy that made my flute is probably gone by now. But the Haynes Company is up in Boston. So whenever I have to have a major overhaul, I have to drive up to Boston and leave it. And I usually bond with the folks up there. And it's a wonderful experience, just seeing how they actually make flutes.
So it's interesting to me that you're saying this about the flute, because I hadn't thought about it. I've been to the Steinway piano factory, and it's kind of probably a similar experience watching how they make the pianos and all of that. But we will get to hearing two of your recordings during this. Well, one is a recording, one is a video with Stevie Wonder. So I'm encouraging people to stick around to watch that, because it's pretty amazing. But when I listened to you play, the sound on the flute, this is really what struck me, was so rich. So beautiful. I mean, so it makes sense. I mean, obviously you're an accomplished flutist, but also the instrument itself and how it's made and the material that it's made from has a lot to do with it, I would assume.
Well, that's part of it, but part of my youth was spent listening to Jean-Pierre Rampal.
Oh.
And, I just loved his sound, and also James Galway, two classical flutists, for those people that might not be familiar with them. So, and from the jazz perspective, I listened to Herbie Mann, but then I discovered Hubert Laws, and that was like, oh my God, I thought I had died and gone to heaven, and actually got to study with Hubert.
Wow.
So I've had very excellent role models, and sound to me was very important, because even if people didn't understand what you were doing, classically or jazz wise, they would know if your sound sounds awful. I think the average person knows a good sound when they hear one. So that was important to me. And that's what I spend a lot of time trying to hone in on that, make sure you sound good. I mean, you can play all the notes in the world, and if you have a bad sound, it doesn't quite muster.
Right. But, of course, we all know about, instruments at the, at the highest level, whether it's a Stradivarius violin or, as I say, a Steinway piano. And of course, I don't know the names of some of the others instruments, but
well, the Bosendorf, I'm sure you know the Bosendorf piano.
Yes. And then there's the what's the famous guitar? Oh, I can't think of it off the top of my head. I should know it. But, obviously the sound and how it's made and the materials that go into it, have a large bearing on it. And so as you went through the years, when you started it, so when did you start to play professionally, and how has that changed through the years? We've talked about that journey from when you started to where you are now.
After I graduated from Howard, I had no idea how to find a job, how to, find someone that would represent me or to represent myself. Where would I go to find a venue to perform? So all of that was kind of by hook or by crook. And I guess I was self-taught in terms of understanding the business side of the industry. But one good thing, I guess fairly early in my career, not after I graduated, but a few years after that. I went to Warner Communication looking for a job in the industry because prior to that, I was doing social work for the city of New York. And that was very depressing. It was working with older people and going into senior centers and, getting people to sing and dance. And I wrote plays for them. And, in the middle of the play, someone would say, "Oh, Miss Winston, I can't remember my lines. What am I supposed to say?" So that kind of like wore me out very quickly. And I went to Warner Communications and they gave me a typing test of all things, because they were going to start me out as a receptionist and then someone's secretary. So I went through that whole phase. But while I was there, I got to work for Robert Redford because he had an office and was part of the Warner Communications family. So I got to substitute for his receptionist for a while, and there's a lot of stories associated with that. And I worked for Atlantic Records and then Electra Asylum. And, I was very much intent on doing a good job and always telling people, whatever you'd like me to do, I'm happy to do it. If you need me to stay late and lick envelopes and stuff envelopes, I'm happy to do that. So I kind of got known in the office as a person that you could ask to do anything that you needed to have done, that was maybe too much for your secretary. And with that attitude, I started moving up very quickly, and I became a local representative of pretty much all the artists on the label: rock, country, jazz, pop, everything. And then they gave me the region, Northeast region, and then finally a national title. And what I would do, I would get someone's, at the time it was a physical album, the 33 1/3. And we would send it out to radio stations. And then it was my job to call the music director or the program director and try to get them to play our artists. So I really had no training in promotion. So I was, I guess, more or less self-taught, and just common sense told me to be nice to people. And by the way, how's your mother? And last time we talked, your mother was in the hospital. Is she feeling better? So it wasn't always about me and the records. It was about people and connecting with people. So that has, I think stayed with me my whole career. And from that, I went to work for Clive Davis at Arista Records.
I have to interject something there. I just have to interject because I live in Greenwich, Connecticut, which is down the road a piece, as they say in the Midwest, from Stamford. And in Stamford, there's a theater, an arts theater, the Avon Theater, who is doing a recognition evening for Clive Davis. I think it's in the next month or two. So it's interesting that you mentioned Clive Davis. But I just want to comment on something you just said, because, and, people could take what I'm going to say one way or the other. But I think that what you said about being, quote unquote, nice to people, being interested in people, being willing to do anything that's asked of you, I think that's kind of a lost attitude, I'll say. But I think when we talk about a journey, that's something that becomes part of us that does carry a lot of weight as you go through life. That's kind of what you're saying. And if we're talking about a journey, I think that's an important part of talking about a journey and where you start and how you are in the beginning and how that carries through your life.
And Phyllis, I think that women mostly do that. I don't know that men have to be nice to people or try to get along or care about how is your mother or any of that. I hate to say that. It sounds pretty sexist. But in my years of being on this earth, I have found more women to be compassionate and, really concerned about your family and how you're even feeling. How are you doing? Are you healthy? Are you okay?
It's interesting you say that. I think you're 100% correct, but I'm, there's always one person that stands out in my mind. a man from many years ago. I come from the long-term care industry, as most listeners and viewers probably know by now. And he was an owner, and he used to come visit 4 times a week and walk throughout the entire building. And it's just what you said about having people understand that if you care about them and their lives, they're more likely to be drawn to you, to be loyal to you, to, to get recognition, right? And so he used to know, he knew everybody who worked for him, and he'd say, how was your mother? How was your son's graduation? How are you feeling? And
he sounds like quite a guy.
He was quite a guy. And I'm still talking about him, and that was in the early 2000s. But I think you're right. It's not necessarily a characteristic we generally associate with men. I think
it's a skill that you learn, or perhaps some of us, if we're lucky, we learn it at a very early age from our mom.
Right. I agree. I definitely agree. So, I interrupted you at the Clive Davis portion because it just rang, true to me, because I know there's this recognition night coming up here for Clive Davis in a few months. So I go on from there.
So I worked for him, and he had a division, a jazz division that was run by Larry Rosen and Dave Grusin, the famous jazz pianist and composer and music producer of many movies, just an incredible guy. So working for them was sort of an experience, and it was sort of a double-edged sword. I was learning the business of music, but nobody took me seriously as an artist. They really didn't. And there was a guy, Ruben Rodriguez, who reached out to me. He heard about this girl, Sherry Winston, who's a good promoter. And he thought, well, maybe I'll steal her from Clive Davis. That would be quite a coup. Which he did. He offered me double my salary and all kinds of perks and whatnot. And I would have a staff, and I would have a nice, what do you call it now? I can't even think of the name. Just basically a big budget,
I was going to say an expense account, or
expense account, which I had never in my life had.
Right.
So it was a lot of really good things. And I left Arista, went to Columbia. But, I had to let them know, look, I am also an artist, and I also perform. And you have to know that I've just put out a record. So my boss sat me down in his office, and he told the secretary, hold all the calls. I want to hear this girl's CD, because the first thing he had told me is, you're going to have to stop your music career if you work for us. And I said, well, fine, I'm out of here, because that's not going to happen. I mean, you might as well say, cut off your right arm and let's go from there. Right. I am not giving up this career, and I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I am. So he actually sat there and listened to my entire CD. This was Do It for Love, my first CD. And after he heard it, he just said, you know what, you're right. I can't ask you to stop playing, but you cannot go off and take a gig or a concert or whatever in the middle of the day. So I said, how in God's name could I, ever believe that I could take off in the middle of the day and go somewhere and do a concert? I mean, You're paying me a lot of money. I do have some moral standards where I'm going to give you more than a day's work. And it was a tough job. I mean, there was some days I was there till 10 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And then my boss would say, well, you're going to dinner with me now, at 7 o'clock. And I'd say, well, I'm meeting some friends after work. And he says, no, you're not. You're coming to dinner with me.
Shoot.
And then 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm still sitting at a bar with this guy, my boss, and I'm looking at my watch, and I'm saying, look, I have to go home because I have to get up and work out in the morning, at the gym before I come to work. So we had a clash of intellect, of will, of everything. So it was a constant battle at Columbia. And eventually putting out another CD got me fired.
Okay, so I just want to stop, because Janelle has said, it wasn't until the pandemic that the Songwriters Hall of Fame began to address the 80% disproportion of male songwriters.
Wow.
That's interesting. I'm glad Janelle told us that. That's really incredible. So that got you fired, your second CD. And then how do you, because I want people to hear this. We have a great audio of one of your, it's called Morning Star.
Right.
Yeah, and it's really fantastic. So can you just kind of fast forward a little bit to that? So I want people to hear your phenomenal flute playing.
Okay, thank you. It was written by my bass player at the time, Luico Hopper. And, he came in and he presented me with this song. And as soon as I heard it, I just said, oh my God, I've got to record that. And it turned out to be one of the most played songs on radio. And then I noticed that when I played it live, the audiences really loved it. So it's a great song. It was on my 4th CD. I have 6 CDs that I've put out and 3 singles. So by CD number 4, it was just a special sound. And,
right. So we're going to hear that. Go ahead. Sorry. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've been fortunate my entire career. I've never allowed someone to stand over me and say, you're not going to record that. We don't like that song. You're not going to do that. This is the order of the songs on your CD. None of that. I had total control over everything. And
well, that's great. Jennifer says, how did male band leaders accept a female band leader? But I wanted to just address something you just said, because I've been watching on PBS. They've had this concert of Leonard Cohen in Dublin, and they've played it a few times, and I've watched it, and they get to this part when he wrote Hallelujah. So it's interesting what you just said about control. And somebody had said to him, well, we know you're great, but we don't know if you're any good, and we don't know about that song. But he insisted, and now of course it's been played by hundreds of artists around the world. So
right. There's always a naysayer who's going to say, what, you really can't play. And do you want me to answer Jennifer, or
please do? And before we hear Morning Star, because I definitely want the viewers and the listeners to hear it. It's fantastic.
By the time I had a band, the band that I have now, let me put it that way, I had gotten rid of a lot of very negative people that played with me. And I had a guy that just told me, you know what, sister, you're not playing the right chords, and you don't know your chord changes, and you don't know that. And I was ready to go home and practically cry, because this guy was just dressing me down.
Right.
And I went home and I looked at the music, and I'm looking at the chord changes, and I'm thinking, what the heck is he talking about? I did play the changes correctly. So I don't know if you understand, Phyllis, what the chord. Oh, of course you do. You're a classical musician. Right. So anyway, I called him up and I said, look, I'm looking at the music and here are the chord changes. And he said, girl, I was just messing with you. I know you know the chord changes. And this man had disrupted my life, gotten inside my head, was tearing me apart, and he's just playing around. So I went through that. I went through people telling me what I should be doing, or why don't you play this, that, and the other thing. And I said, look, as long as I'm writing a check and it's my name on it and your name is on the recipient part of the check, you're going to do what I say. And I had had enough. Mostly I worked with men, and I had enough of them trying to control me one way or the other.
So I have a question. I don't mean to stop you, but I have a question. I don't want to forget it. Do you think that ethnicity had something to do with that?
Not really. No, my band members at that time and still are Black. So it wasn't a racial situation at all. But now, I think that I've got guys that genuinely, I won't say like me, I think they love me. And I've just shown a certain amount of compassion and caring about them. In other words, if we do a concert or any kind of event whatsoever, they're going to be comfortable. They're going to have water. They're going to have food afterwards. I have a stipulation of what's acceptable to give us, for either lunch or dinner or whatever it is. And, just really think about their feelings and how they're doing. Are they comfortable on stage? Is that light in your eye? Can you hear yourself? Do we need to spend some more time in the sound check? So, I had to really become a tough band leader. I didn't start out like this. I was like a little pussycat. Right. And I could see that was not going to get it in this industry or really any industry. And I won't say that I've become, a tiger biting people's heads off. That's just not my personality. Right. But I don't take any mess either. I really don't.
Well, and I think, everybody's personality is different. So I can't say that's part of a journey because I think we have elements of that personality in us, and we develop even further as we, continue on that journey. But like I said, some people have that and some people don't. But I really want people to hear this. It's almost about 4.5 minutes, Morning Star, because it really, your playing is just so outstanding. I loved listening to it today.
You. So thank you so much, Phyllis.
So let's. Ah, just phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
I got lost in that whole thing was, and between the flute and the piano. I mean, the sound is so unbelievably rich. Um, Lucy says, "I love this. Where can I get a copy? Is it's on your LP?" Oh, so that perfect question, because we were going to talk about something else that you do, where people can get one of your CDs. So yeah, please tell Lucy and other people where they can get it.
Well, I'm on all the platforms, any place that you can buy music, but you can also email me directly. I can send you my order form, or I could take a credit card over the phone using the Square and could send it right out to you, autograph it for you.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, so my email is Sherry Winston Band, SherryWinston Band, BAND at Gmail.
Oh, that's
And
easy
I
enough.
promise I will, answer you right away. And, give me your phone number and I will call you and we'll do it over the phone.
Cool. And so Peggy says, how long did it take you to break into the jazz world? In your opinion, if you were a male, would it have happened sooner? Great question.
I'd have to think about that a second. I've never really thought about, is this holding me back because I'm Black, because I'm a woman, because I'm both? I don't know. I'm pretty tenacious, and all the stuff I do and have ever done in my life, whether it's scuba diving or, oh goodness, some of the other things I do, mountain bike or canoeing or kayaking or, stuff that maybe a lot of women don't do. I know a lot of women do it and I've run
Right.
into them, but all of it together. I don't like to enter that into my psyche of, oh, I'm a woman, so I can't do this. So breaking in, I think it's just tough for everybody. This whole music field is so crazy. And I don't think that it's always based on how talented you are, because there's so many talented people out there. I think you've got to be a bulldog. You've got to want it more than you want anything else in this world. And you've got to be willing to go broke and maybe almost on the verge of not paying your mortgage or your rent. And I mean, I'm talking from, this is my life. This is what I've been through, that after I bought a house, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to continue to pay it, because once I left corporate America, Columbia Records, Arista, Warner Brothers, all of these different record companies, and I did social work early in my life. Once I was actually making CDs, I made up my mind, I am not going to work for anybody anymore, period.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever I have to do to make that work, I'm going to do it. And there were times when I was wondering, oh my God, at first it was, how am I going to pay my rent? When I lived in New York City, I lived in a little tiny apartment on the Upper East Side. And I was almost at the point of not being able to pay my rent when my record hit, and all of a sudden everything blew up in terms of, I started getting concerts and people were calling me through my record company or reaching out to me directly, and my whole life changed. So, if you would have told me that in the midst of me looking through my pockets for some money to make sure I could pay my rent, I mean, I wouldn't have believed it. And, I was sitting here listening to Morning Star, and I'm almost thinking to myself, who is that playing that? I love that. That is so beautiful. And sometimes I can't believe it's me, I'm telling you, because
Wow, that's incredible.
before I came on this podcast, I was practicing, and I was practicing Mozart and Bach and doing some
Oh,
sonatas.
two of my favorites, Mozart and Bach. Oh, and there's one other one, Chopin is another favorite.
So, it's just, I don't know. I'm constantly amazed that I'm even here with a house in this position as a jazz musician.
That's fantastic. So now Dan says you came up when record labels and FM radio made careers. Now it's all on the artist. Which industry model do you prefer? Another great question.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of what you prefer. I think it's a matter of your circumstances. Where are you in this moment? We can't go back to the 33 and a third. We can't go back to record
45s.
companies. Yeah. Or record companies that would actually listen to your demo, your demo cassette or demo CD or whatever it was that you had. And when I worked for Columbia Records, the head of A&R was right across, his office was right across from mine. And at one point he asked me, can I give you some of these CDs to listen to? Because he had a pile that was like this high in his office. He just was not listening to people's CDs and he was breaking people's hearts.
Right.
Folks would come in, and at one point when I was a receptionist at all the different record companies I worked at, people would come up to me and say, look, I gave so-and-so, my record, I sent it in 3 weeks ago or
right.
3 years ago or 2 months ago, whatever. And I haven't heard anything about it, and I'd say, well, do you have another copy? Maybe I can listen to it and then take it into this person and see if I can get them. So I sort of, because I was an artist myself, nobody knew that, but I had compassion for these people. It was like horrible, that a person spent maybe their life savings and hours making these records and nobody was listening to them. And that was really what was going on at most record companies. You didn't have an agent or somebody that knew someone at the record company that could get them to listen to your product. And because they listened to it, they might not, most of them were not all of them were not musicians. They really came up the hard way, in the streets, and maybe were hustlers or God knows what. And a lot of them were doing that. So they were out of their minds half of the time. And it was just tough, trying to get into this industry. I mean, you just have to keep knocking on doors, keep trying things. And, I had like 26 rejection letters from record companies. And, when I do my music seminars at universities or for art organizations, students will say, how could you get 26 rejections and still keep going? I got one rejection and I went home and cried and I never tried to get a record deal after that. And that's the difference. I mean, you could beat me down with a baseball bat and I'm going to get up and say, where's the hospital? And after I get out of the hospital, it's like, okay, where's the next gig?
But I think that's, what you addressed that earlier. It's about determination, really wanting it. Dan comes back. Yes, of course, you straddle both models. Which do you prefer? Which do you think work better? I think it's just, I'm not answering from obviously a point of view of a person who knows, but I think that was the time then, and it's just a different time now. And it's just, that had its positives. It also had a lot of negatives. And I think you could say the same thing for how it is now.
Well, I feel awful for artists now because you don't have any, not that we ever had a set course, but you did have some idea of you make a record or you make a demo and you send it into a record company. Where are the record companies now? I mean, I'm not even aware of a lot of record companies that are out there that are signing people or even that exist. And I don't know who's promoting records. I'm not even sure. There are people that are getting music on these internet, radio stations. But what does it mean if your product is not selling? If you're not getting jobs from it, if nobody is calling you or emailing you or anything, and that's why I have stopped spending thousands and thousands of dollars to make records, because it's like nobody is buying CDs anymore. When I have a concert, I have all of my CDs out and people would say, oh, I'm going to buy one just to support you. I no longer have a CD player.
Right. Because I have lots of CDs. And I even have cassettes still. And it's like, well, what am I supposed to do with all of these? And, of course, I want to continue talking about your journey. But it's interesting what you said about rejection, because there's a business event I've gone to for several years. And every time he does the smaller event, he has a large event and two smaller events every year. And he's published many, 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 many books. And he brings out this basket that he had 1,000 rejections from his first book. And he still has that, and this is probably 30 years ago, he still has that basket of letters to remind him, right? And then there's also, who was it, 3 Feet from Gold, that whole story. So it really is about resilience, is about determination. I mean, I've had my own struggles with, shouldn't I be giving up now? But but I'm still here talking to you. So, but I want to continue your journey a little more, because I don't want people to miss seeing this video with Stevie Wonder. It's quite special. And the fact that I have it to play on Senior Nation is like beyond special to me.
Well, we don't have a whole lot of time, so I'll get to the Stevie Wonder piece. How did I get to Stevie Wonder? I have listened to his albums like everybody else from the time they were albums to CDs, and he was always been, my idol as far as a musician and writer is concerned. And, his music just touches my heart. And I don't know where I first heard Pastime Paradise, but when I heard it, I knew I had to record it, and I did. And a woman by the name of Debbie Jackson was giving a 97th birthday party for her husband, who was much older than her. And she remembered that I had recorded Pastime Paradise. So she was going to invite Stevie to this big 97th birthday for her husband, because her husband was Hal Jackson.
Oh my gosh.
WBLS. And he was one of the first people to play Little Stevie Wonder when Stevie was like 8 years old. So when they invited him, they didn't know whether he would come to this party or not. But Debbie called me and she said, can you come to this party? And I want you to play Pastime Paradise with the band, especially if Stevie comes. So everybody's sitting there not knowing whether Stevie's going to show up or not. And finally, Debbie said to me, look, I don't think he's coming. The party's almost over. And why don't you just go over there? I know you practiced the song, and play it with the band. So I went up there. I was very disappointed and started playing it. And all of a sudden, it was a whole bunch of commotion. And all the women jumped up and they were running around like little chickens with their heads cut off, because Stevie Wonder came in the back door. So I saw him and I almost had a heart attack. And I started talking to God. Oh, God, please help me play this song. Please make sure I don't hit any wrong notes. Don't let me crack a note, because here is Stevie Wonder.
Right.
So anyway, I'm continuing to play it. And Stevie comes in. The women are mobbing him. And you could see him kind of like look up in the air, and he's looking around and he's trying to think, where is this sound coming from? And I know this song. And finally, I start walking towards him, playing the song. And all of a sudden, he whips out his harmonica and he starts playing Pastime Paradise. Well, I thought I would just pass out. I was so excited. And then we did this thing called Trading Fours. And I know you know what that is. Yes. But for the audience, I'll play 4 musical measures. And then Stevie will play 4 musical measures, and we were going, this is Trading Fours, going back and forth like this. So then we start improvising, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm playing with Stevie Wonder. So I mean, it was just kismet. It really was. It was not something that I expected to actually happen. And when it happened, it was like, it beat playing at the White House. It beat playing at Carnegie Hall and Lincoln Center and all the rest of it. This was like the highlight of my life.
I have to say, my dream was Carnegie Hall. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. So I don't know about that. But I will say that, I think, just being open, and that's something for people, and we're talking about a journey, and on Senior Nation, just always remaining open. You just never know how things are going to develop, where they're going to come from. I mean, this radio show on Source TV Radio Network, I mean, I got here because I was trying to find somebody who knew somebody. Actually, it was Malcolm Gladwell, to either write a foreword or a testimonial for my upcoming 4th book. And I was introduced to Mel Albin, who was the owner of the network, and we started talking. And then I told him my interests, and he told me his, and he said, well, why don't you have a show on my network? So I think it's what you say, it's about being open, and that never stops. I'm 72, and I still remain open. And I think that's an important part of the journey, that when you get to a certain point, just say, okay, I'm done, I'm finished, I'm closed, there are no other opportunities. But I want to take this time to play the video, because I think it's so super duper, of you and Stevie Wonder. I think it's super. So
can I just say one
sure,
little piece about this? My creative artist, Pam Rice, who lives in Chicago, is the first woman that I called when I got the MP3 file, which is the music file from Debbie Jackson. And I was just thrilled. Debbie didn't know that it existed. She found it on her computer. I didn't know it existed. I knew I had played with him, but I didn't know anyone had recorded it. So it was like a total shock to me when she said, surprise, surprise, I'm sending you this
cool.
MP3. She didn't tell me what it was, but she sent it to me. And when I saw it was Stevie Wonder, I almost had a fit. So then I said, how can I use this and get it out to more people? So I called Pam and I said, if I send you a bunch of pictures, I only have 4 pictures with myself with Stevie. If I send you some other pictures, can you put all of this together with the MP3 file and make a video? And she said, yes. So that's what you're going to watch now.
Oh, cool beans. Okay, so let's have it. I'm so excited.
Welcome to the Mischief Maker broadcast, where chaos.
Nope.
Hey, guys.
Sherry Winston, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Sherry Winston. Stevie Wonder.
Hey, I want to applaud.
Me too.
Oh my gosh, how
I still
phenomenal.
can't believe that I, had the opportunity to do that.
Carlos says, do you think you are a better flutist today than you were 25 years ago? Which is, I think I know how I would answer that, even in my profession. But let's hear what you would say.
Absolutely. I mean, all the practice, and I'm a better entertainer, let me put it that way, in addition to being a better flutist. I just understand the audience, and I'm not scared when I go out there anymore. I'm not nervous. I'm just want to embrace the audience and make them have as good a time as they can have.
Yeah, I could sense that from you. Ted says, are you the first successful Black female jazz flutist?
I don't know if I'm the first. There are a few of us out there, and there's no way for me to know of all the people that maybe have not recorded, that are out there playing concerts and doing events and little jazz clubs and whatnot. And could there be people better than me? I'm absolutely sure that there are. More talented, no question about it. But, as I said before, Ted, it's all about your desire, your ability, not if you get knocked down, not to stay down and lay down there and feel sorry. And it's not to say that I didn't come home sometimes and cry, from all the rejections, but do you eventually get up?
Wayne Gretzky says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So you just have, I can't read the Dallas. I don't know if I'm saying that name.
Dallas
is the first.
Dallas Frost.
Oh yeah. Wow. Is this hot? I want it. Cool beans. I don't know what did Stevie say to you afterwards? Great question.
Oh my gosh. See, this is the part that breaks my heart. Stevie said to me, I love your playing and I want to record with you and I want to play with you more. And he gave the aide that was with him, he said, please make sure you get all of her information. And I got his information. And, with as aggressive as I am, I was on this guy the next day. I was calling him and just saying, look, I'm the young lady that played with Stevie. And, he says he wants to record with me, et cetera, et cetera. And the guy never made the connection. He would not give me Stevie's number or let Stevie be on the phone with me or tell me how to get to Stevie. And I tried to go through Black Bull, his publishing company, and just said, I just had this whole thing with Stevie Wonder and he was trying to reach me. And the guy just blocked it. I have no idea why he blocked it. Whether he took a disliking to me and never did anything to him, I don't know. But this stuff happens, sometimes men just, you get on their nerves for whatever reason, but it broke my heart. It was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life.
But I've heard this in the film industry and the entertainment industry. Oh, call me darling, that kind of thing. And, that just is something they say. And I'm not saying that he said that because obviously it was fantastic, but, that there are other people around them who have other priorities or other interests or other connections. And you just don't know. I mean, I would be heartbroken too. We're coming to the top of the hour. I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about something else you do, which is this fantastic cookbook and your passion for cooking your entire life. You finally got around to doing a cookbook. And if people, order it, they could get one of your CDs. So I want you to talk about that just a little bit before, we have to end and show people the book and tell them where they could get it.
Well, Phyllis, you are an absolute sweetheart for even remembering that, because we have been up and down the pike here talking about everything, and for you to still remember about my cookbook. Thank you so much. I'll show it to the audience. It's called For Lovers Only, a Cookbook and More. And in the back of the cookbook, there's one of my CDs, which is the same name for Lovers Only, and it is all love songs. So while you're cooking, or better yet, while you're entertaining that special lady or that special gentleman, you can put on some very mellow music in the background. And, there are all kinds of recipes that are all my own original recipes from all over the world. It's stuff
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's not a collection of recipes that I've taken out of the New York Times or something that I've actually cooked. The young lady that I mentioned, Pam Rice, my creative director, she helped me put the book together in terms of all the graphics. She did the entire layout, and it was a collaboration. I worked with an editor that had worked at Essence Magazine, my longtime photographer that I went to Howard University with. He did most of my CD covers. He did a lot of the photographing of the food as I was actually cooking it. He spent the night with me, and I cooked all night, and he was taking pictures, and we were eating, and I was putting stuff in the freezer. It was crazy.
Dela says, probably you are too good. I bet you are. So I'd love to try some of those recipes myself. So before, I say goodbye and unfortunately have to, end this wonderful conversation, tell people where they could get this cookbook.
Okay, if you email me at Sherry Winston Band, SHERRY Winston, WINSTON, Band, BAND, and you can see my name on the screen at gmail.com. I promise you, I will write you back right away. Give me your phone number. We can talk, and I can take a credit card using the Square on my cell phone. And within a few days, you'll have whatever you like. The CD, I have 6 different CDs. You can go online and listen to some of them. You can go to Pandora and hear some of my music. And I mean, you have heard it, so you know what you're getting. But just email me, and I promise you I will get right back to you.
Well, I can't thank you enough. This has been fantastic. First of all, just listening to your music, not only for myself, but on the show is just beyond fantastic for me. And hearing your experiences from the woman's point of view was really eye-opening. And I admire your resilience, your determination, your, stick-to-itiveness. And I hope listeners learned as much as I did from hearing you tonight on Senior Nation. So thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Phyllis. And thank you to Mel for putting the two of us together and making this suggestion.
Absolutely. And as I said, we're both on the East Coast, not that far from each other. And maybe one Thursday night, you'll come down to the VFW in Westport to listen to jazz. And
I would love to. That sounds great.
So I really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to say hello and to meet your wonderful audience.
Thanks so much, Sherry. So now I'd like to turn to next week's guest on Senior Nation, Susie Singer Carter, who's been a previous guest on the show. Susie's a successful filmmaker and documentarian. She directed and produced the award-winning documentary, No Country for Old People, which chronicled her mother's last 6 months of life in a nursing home. But Susie is back to shed light on how the film industry has approached aging over the course of time. I certainly have my own ideas, but I'm certainly eager to hear Susie's insights. So remember to tune in, comment, and ask questions on August 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Source TV Radio Network. And until then, take care, stay well, and stay tuned.
Go for it. I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it. Discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it. Uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know. There'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play. I can make magic today.